There's a quiet kind of strength that doesn't shout. It's not loud, boastful, or attention-seeking. It doesn't crave validation or applause. Instead, it endures in silence. This strength is what philosophers and psychologists alike call mental resilience. The ability to stay composed when everything around you demands a reaction. Throughout history, those who rose above chaos shared one uncommon trait: mental untouchability. These are people who can navigate storms without losing their inner stillness. They think clearly while others panic and act deliberately while others crumble. Centuries ago, Niccolò Machiavelli recognized this rare state of mind. Often dismissed as ruthless or manipulative, Machiavelli was, in truth, a keen observer of human nature. His work, The Prince, wasn't a guide for cruelty, it was a study in control. Control over circumstance, perception, and most importantly, oneself. He believed power belonged to those who understood the psychology of human behavior and mastered their reactions instead of being mastered by them. Modern psychology now supports much of what Machiavelli intuited. Cognitive behavioral studies show that emotional regulation, the ability to pause before reacting, strengthens the prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain responsible for rational decision-making. Neuroscience reveals that calmness under pressure isn't a natural gift. It's a mental skill built through repeated self-discipline and awareness. In essence, Machiavelli wasn't teaching manipulation, he was teaching mastery. His philosophy mirrors what today's psychologists call mental fortitude, the art of thinking strategically, staying composed, and controlling one's emotional landscape. The truth is, when you stop being reactive and start observing, you become unshakable. You gain quiet power, the kind that can't be seen, only felt. And that's where true influence begins. Number one, detach from approval. Machiavelli once observed that the crowd is fickle. Their love today can swiftly turn into hatred tomorrow. This insight, though centuries old, still mirrors a deep truth about human nature. Psychology refers to this cycle as the hedonic treadmill, a phenomenon where people constantly pursue pleasure, validation, and approval, yet never reach lasting satisfaction. The more one chases external praise, the faster it fades, leaving behind an empty craving for the next fix. In modern society, this can be seen in social media culture, where likes and followers have become the currency of self-worth. People often measure their value through fleeting moments of attention rather than through inner conviction or character. Machiavelli understood that power and peace come not from pleasing others, but from mastering oneself. Those who are mentally untouchable operate from principle rather than popularity. They know that applause is unstable. It can vanish the moment their actions no longer serve public opinion. Instead of bending to please the masses, they grounded their identity in values, logic, and self-awareness. This mindset aligns with the psychological concept of intrinsic motivation, which is driven by personal meaning and integrity, not external validation. When a person shifts from seeking approval to pursuing purpose, they become resilient against emotional manipulation. The opinions of others no longer control their mood or choices. This is what makes them powerful, not arrogance, but emotional independence. They are steady while others sway, deliberate while others react. In a world addicted to being liked, the ability to act from principle is rare and revolutionary. It means saying no when everyone expects yes, standing alone when conformity feels safer, and trusting your judgment even when it's unpopular. Machiavelli would argue that true strength lies in this discipline, the refusal to let the crowd define you. Because when the noise fades and the applause stops, what remains is character. And character, unlike popularity, doesn't expire. Number 2, see through emotion. Machiavelli's advice that rulers should appear compassionate, yet never be ruled by compassion, reveals a psychological truth that extends far beyond politics. It's about emotional mastery. This isn't cruelty, it's control. To lead effectively, whether in a kingdom or in your own life, emotions must serve logic, not dominate it. Compassion, when unchecked, can blur judgment, leading one to make decisions based on guilt, pity, or fear of disapproval rather than reason. Neuroscience supports this principle. The prefrontal cortex, the region of the brain responsible for rational thinking, self-regulation, and long-term planning, often competes with the amygdala, the emotional center that reacts impulsively to perceived threats or rewards. When you pause before reacting, as Machiavelli's lesson implies, you're not suppressing your humanity. You're strengthening your ability to lead it. Each moment of restraint allows your prefrontal cortex to override the amygdala, creating what psychologists call response flexibility. This mental pause is the biological root of self-command, the foundation of emotional intelligence and strategic thinking. Imagine a leader who reacts in anger to criticism, or a professional who makes impulsive choices to please others. Both lose respect and control. Machiavelli understood that power in any form depends on perception. Appearing compassionate earns trust. Being governed by compassion invites manipulation. Modern behavioral science echoes this idea in leadership psychology, showing that those who balance empathy with detachment make more consistent and fair decisions. Emotional control is not about becoming cold, it's about staying clear. In moments of conflict or chaos, those who remain composed wield an invisible power, the ability to think when others cannot. This principle applies to personal life too. The one who pauses before replying to provocation, who observes emotion without drowning in it, becomes the true ruler of their own mind. Machiavelli's wisdom, when read through a modern psychological lens, teaches that self-control is not a denial of feeling. It is the art of governing it. In the end, compassion should inform your choices, not dictate them. To appear kind yet act from clarity is not manipulation, it's maturity. It's the quiet strength that separates those who are emotionally reactive from those who are mentally untouchable. Number 3, understand human nature without hating it. Machiavelli's insight that people are driven by self-interest may sound ruthless, but it's one of the most realistic observations ever made about human nature. Centuries later, modern behavioral psychology supports his view through countless studies showing that our choices, whether moral, emotional, or practical, are often influenced by what we believe will serve our needs or preserve our sense of control. For instance, research in social and evolutionary psychology highlights the concept of reciprocal altruism, where even acts of kindness are subconsciously tied to the expectation of mutual benefit or social approval. Machiavelli understood this dynamic long before science could name it. He didn't condemn self-interest as evil. Instead, he saw it as the fundamental compass guiding human behavior. By accepting this truth, he gained an advantage over those blinded by idealism. Acceptance, in this sense, isn't cynicism, it's clarity. It allows us to see how motivations operate beneath the surface of politics, friendships, and even love. When you understand that people act according to what they value, or fear losing, you stop taking things personally. A colleague's betrayal, a friend's sudden distance, or a leader's empty promises become less of a shock and more of a reflection of predictable human behavior. This kind of awareness isn't meant to harden the heart, but to sharpen the mind. It empowers emotional intelligence by teaching you to manage relationships strategically rather than react impulsively. The same principle applies in negotiation, leadership, and everyday decision-making. Instead of resenting self-interest, Machiavelli turned it into a tool for wisdom. He recognized that influence doesn't come from demanding fairness. It comes from understanding motivation. People follow those who align with their interests, not those who merely preach morality. Modern psychology echoes this through concepts like incentive theory, where motivation is fueled by reward and satisfaction. The key is balance, to see through self-interest without losing empathy, to understand human nature without despising it. Clarity, not bitterness, is what gives power. In a world where manipulation often masquerades as sincerity, knowing what drives people helps you stay grounded, compassionate, and unshakably aware. Machiavelli's lesson then isn't about mistrust, it's about mastering perception. And once you see the world through that lens, you stop being deceived by appearances and start navigating reality with quiet confidence. Number 4, master the power of perception. He knew that reality often matters less than appearance. In cognitive psychology, this is known as the framing effect, a mental shortcut where people's judgments and decisions are heavily influenced by how information is presented rather than by the actual facts themselves. For instance, a doctor telling a patient that a treatment has a 90% success rate sounds more reassuring than saying it has a 10% failure rate, even though both statements describe the same reality. This subtle difference in wording changes how the mind perceives truth. The same principle applies in everyday life. The calm, composed individual who speaks with quiet confidence often commands more respect than the frantic genius who constantly defends their ideas. A calm mind doesn't rush to prove itself. It crafts perception with precision. It understands that control over narrative is control over influence. People respond not just to what they see, but to how they feel when they see it. In politics, business, and relationships, perception often wins before facts even enter the room. That's why leaders throughout history, from Machiavelli's princes to modern CEOs, mastered the art of appearing certain, even when uncertain inside. They recognized that human beings are emotional interpreters, not rational processors. The way a situation is framed through tone, timing, and presence can make truth more persuasive than truth itself. So when you stay calm under pressure, you're not just managing your emotions, you're shaping reality for those watching. You become the stable reference point in a storm of perception. This isn't manipulation, it's psychological intelligence. The one who frames the moment defines its meaning. By mastering calmness, you master framing. And by mastering framing, you learn one of the quietest but most powerful forms of influence, the ability to make others see the world not as it is, but as you intend it to be. Number 5, value fear, but do not live in it. Machiavelli's timeless observation, "It is safer to be feared than loved, if you cannot be both," has been debated for centuries, often misunderstood as a call for cruelty. But when you strip away the politics and read it through the lens of psychology and human behavior, it reveals a profound truth about boundaries, respect, and self-preservation. In this context, fear does not mean terror. It means reverence and respect. It is the kind of fear that arises when others recognize your self-worth and understand that mistreating you has consequences. This psychological boundary protects your energy, your time, and your peace. In modern life, especially in personal and professional relationships, those who seek only to be loved often sacrifice their values, saying yes when they mean no, and giving endlessly to win approval. Over time, this approval-seeking behavior leads to burnout and resentment because it's rooted in external validation rather than self-respect. Studies in social psychology show that people who maintain firm boundaries are perceived as more confident and trustworthy. Respect commands attention, while excessive agreeableness invites exploitation. Machiavelli's principle teaches a balance of empathy and strength. Love makes you approachable, but respect makes you unshakable. When people fear disappointing you because they value your standards, they treat you differently. Your presence starts to influence rather than chase, and that's where true leadership is born. Even in neuroscience, fear and respect trigger similar pathways in the brain's amygdala. Both signal importance. The difference lies in intent. One protects, the other manipulates. The healthiest kind of fear you can inspire is the awareness that you cannot be taken for granted. Those who fear losing approval often lose themselves because their self-worth depends on others' acceptance. But when you build an identity rooted in inner value, you no longer chase affection, you attract respect. Machiavelli wasn't glorifying tyranny. He was reminding us that peace without power is fragile. Love without boundaries is exploitation waiting to happen. In the end, being feared in the Machiavellian sense simply means being respected enough that people think twice before crossing your line. It's not about dominance, it's about dignity. Number 6, adapt without losing integrity. The wise man adapts himself to circumstances, he wrote, as water shapes itself to the vessel. This timeless observation captures the essence of resilience, not as an unbending strength, but as a quiet, intelligent adaptability. True resilience isn't about standing firm against every storm, it's about learning how to move with it. Like water, which takes the shape of its container yet never loses its essence, the resilient mind flows through change without surrendering its core values. In modern psychology, this principle is known as cognitive flexibility, a concept deeply supported by neuroscience. It refers to the brain's ability to shift perspectives, modify strategies, and adapt to new information without emotional collapse. Studies using functional MRI scans show that individuals with high cognitive flexibility exhibit more activity in the prefrontal cortex, the region responsible for decision-making, problem-solving, and emotional regulation. This means the flexible mind doesn't simply react, it responds with awareness. In everyday life, this translates to the person who can stay calm when plans fall apart, who can pivot gracefully when life redirects their path, and who can find opportunity hidden within disappointment. Ancient philosophers like Lao Tzu and modern thinkers alike have celebrated this mindset because it bridges wisdom and practicality. It's the art of survival with grace. The person who insists the world must conform to their expectations will often break when it doesn't. But the one who learns to reshape their expectations, who bends without losing direction, becomes unstoppable. Even in business and leadership, adaptability is now considered one of the top predictors of success. The most effective leaders are not those who resist change, but those who read it early, adjust swiftly, and inspire others to do the same. This is resilience at its highest form, not a hardened shell, but an intelligent flow of purpose and perception. So when life shifts unexpectedly, remember the wisdom of water. It doesn't fight the vessel, it becomes it. You too can navigate chaos with calm precision, turning uncertainty into strength. That is the quiet genius of adaptability. The power to move without losing your way. Number 7, think in long games. Machiavelli's true genius lay not in manipulation or cruelty, as many assume, but in foresight, the ability to see beyond the immediate and understand the long game of human nature. He grasped what modern psychology now calls delayed gratification, centuries before the concept was formally studied. In his writings, especially The Prince, Machiavelli emphasized that power and influence were not won through impulse or emotion, but through strategy, patience, and endurance. This is what makes his philosophy timeless. In today's world, where instant gratification rules, where people chase quick success, viral fame, and overnight results, Machiavelli's mindset stands as a stark contrast. He understood that those who can delay their rewards, who can endure discomfort and uncertainty without breaking focus, ultimately hold true power. Psychologists later confirmed this idea through experiments like the Stanford marshmallow test, where children who resisted immediate pleasure for greater future rewards tended to achieve more success later in life. Machiavelli intuitively understood this truth, that endurance is not merely about waiting, but about strengthening one's mind while waiting. He believed patience was not passive. It was active restraint, the deliberate choice to hold one's emotions, reactions, and desires under control while strategically moving toward an outcome. This kind of patience builds mental armor. It turns chaos into clarity and setbacks into stepping stones. To be mentally untouchable, as Machiavelli would put it, is to master the art of timing, to know when to act, when to pause, and when to let others reveal themselves first. Those who rush often stumble, but those who endure, observe, and wait with purpose shape the game itself. Endurance becomes the quiet power that separates the impulsive from the influential. Machiavelli's lesson remains a profound truth. Patience is not weakness. It is the highest form of discipline, a weapon of the wise, and a shield for those who refuse to be ruled by the moment. In a world that worships reaction, the quiet strategist remains rare. The Machiavellian mindset, when purified of manipulation, is simply this: know yourself, master your emotions, and never give your peace to the chaos around you. That's how you become mentally untouchable.